Alrighty. Welcome back to Creatives on Business. My name is Henry Marsh. Thank you so much for joining in. Creatives on Business is naturally the place where I sit down with all of the best creatives in the whole wide world, eventually at some stage, hopefully maybe one day, where we just distill a little bit about what they're going to be doing in their lives, how they make a successful creative business from their lives, and how they got there. Today, I have to read this little section because it's a little bit of a bio that I wrote for the man across from me. Some say he is the best box beater in SA. Others say he's the world's best friend. Greg du Preez, thank you so much for joining the show today. How's it going?
Crowd goes wild.
Crowd goes wild.
No, it's going good.
There's panties and bras that are just being thrown your way.
And money.
And money.
And money. I can't do anything with panties and bras. I don't wear them.
Struggling artist right here, right?
Dude, it's rough.
Man.
Just clarifying,
Yeah.
I only beat boxes. I don't beat box.
Yeah. That's I had to put that in there. You beat the boxes. I don't know how many people would catch that. But thank you so much for pulling in today, dude. I really appreciate it.
Absolute pleasure.
For those of the world who do not know who you are, please give us a little bit of insight as to who is Greg du Preez.
I am, well, I don't know. Like, we've been best mates since grade 7.
Yeah, a whole bunch of years.
So there's that. Besides that, I am a probably entrepreneur, creative person. I don't know. Dude, I have my finger in so many pies. Autodidact. I really like that word.
Yeah.
So I've got my finger in a lot of pies. I do a lot of things. I am a qualified audio engineer, working as a freelance audio engineer in the business, but I'm also running and part of a production company. Many other things above and beyond that I'm sure we'll get into on this podcast. But I'm just Greg.
Just Greg.
So
So as you mentioned, we've known each other for a good couple of years. We went to school together. We were playing in a few bands, had our own radio station. Well, it was your radio station that I just partook in for a short little while.
I mean, we couldn't do it without you.
for like the few episodes that I was on. Greg, but you're a qualified sound engineer, as you just mentioned.
Yeah.
How did that come about? Why did you get into sound engineering originally?
Do you really want to know?
Yeah.
It's your fault.
Is it though? Can we really blame this on me?
No, because what happened? You remember what happened. So your brother and them were part of the sound crew at school. You know those guys, and they left. They're like, "Hey, Henry, you're not doing anything. You're like grade 8 or something. Come take over the sound thing." And you were like, "Okay, well, Greg,
That sounds cool.
help." So I came and I helped you, and dude, I just fell in love with it, eh? So yeah, it's honestly, I just fell in love with the sound thing. We had school concerts at the school, and there were production companies that came in and did the audio for that, and did the lighting and all that kind of stuff. And I just took a massive interest in that. I met up there with a guy called Greg du Preez. Firstly, he worked for a company, LP Unlimited, back in the day. And Skulk told me at that stage, dude, if you want to get into the audio industry, start at Moraletta Park. Go to Moraletta Park. That's the big church they just built. Brand new, 7,000 seater venue, line array PA, the best consoles at the time that they had in their Soundcraft MH3 and MH4, still analog consoles, but all this outboard gear that nobody else could afford ever. So the church had it, and he told me, dude, if you want to make it in the industry, get in with Moraletta.
So was this, just to get a bit of an indication, was this before or after you started studying?
No, this was grade 9.
So you were 15 years old.
This was grade 9.
You were 15 years old, and you were like, sounds the business, man.
Yeah, sounds where I want to be. So this was all grade 9. Anyway, so that November I started at Moraletta. I met a guy there called Pieter Louis van Twisk, PL. Super, super, super tall blonde guy. I owe PL a lot. He really helped me out in the industry. So anyways, started at Moraletta, started mixing there. I was the youngest person there. And through Moraletta, dude, it just went from there. I started with PL. PL used to do a lot of work for theaters at that stage. It was the old Performer Theater in Brooklyn, before it became the Brooklyn Theater. PL used to do a bunch of shows there, and he used to take me with him to go and stage manage, and I used to learn from him there. Eventually the theater got sold, and the show that was running in the theater, it was a lot like a barnyard cut type of gig. The permanent show that was in the theater, or the seasonal show, moved to a different theater called the Cadillac Theatre in Montana, and they asked PL to go with him, or to go with them. And PL asked me to go with him, and I was like, cool, sweet. So we moved off to that theatre, and we started doing work there. At that theatre, we got a lot more experience with other kind of single artists coming in. You know, your Bobby van Jaarsveld's just starting up, and your Kooskom bass playing there, and all those type of guys. Greg du Preez sang there on stage as well. So we did we started sound for all those kind of guys. We started there with them. Then we did the in-house show there. The roof collapsed of that place, unfortunately, and the show then moved to Alberton.
That's quite a bit of drive, Montana to Alberton.
That's a far drive. But that was a barnyard theatre. That was an actual legit barnyard theatre, and we moved with that show to the Barnyard Theatre, and we started doing shows in the Barnyard Theatre. We started doing actual Barnyard Theatre shows, and from there it just expanded. We started doing a lot of theatre stuff. At this stage, I was still working at Moreletta Park. There I was a volunteer at the church. So every Sunday, every Thursday, I'd go in.
Well, you were still young, right?
I was still at school, man.
Still like 17, 18, 16, 17, 18, somewhere around there.
All part of school. Working on weekends. PL would take me with him. I didn't have a license or anything, so PL he'd pick me up from home, and I'd drive with him all the way to Alberton, and we'd do shows until midnight, and then come home, and he'd drop me off, and the next morning I did go to school.
For people listening, how far is Alberton from where you were living?
Probably about 60, 70 kilometers.
That's what, like an hour and a half drive, 2 hour drive?
Yeah, probably somewhere there.
With traffic.
Yeah. So that was always fun, and then school the next morning.
What did your teachers say when you rocked up and you were just like tired?
Oh, dude, no, I always used to sleep in Afrikaans class. Thanks, Ms. Basaki. Sorry about that. Afrikaans was a jol. Used to sleep in that class. And then, we were still doing sound stuff at school at the stage as well. You and I were both working there. We were doing whatever the hell we were doing, sports events and all that kind of stuff. And I became head of sound crew there, and that was fun. Volunteering at Moreletta. And through Moreletta, PL just took me everywhere, and we did a lot of shows. I just started doing, PL had a bunch of friends in the industry, and we did a lot of like live event shows and stages outside, and those gigs and malls that, Adam kom speel daar so, kom single in die mall of Eden and those guys, and that we did a lot of that kind of stuff, and that's where I grew my experience with mixing with bands and mixing with professionals, all before I even studied audio engineering. I was making a living from all of this. I got to meet a lot of cool people through Moreletta. So many people came in and out of those doors. That was the biggest fixed seated venue in South Africa at the stage. The dome's bigger, but it's a standing venue. So it was massive. We had many shows in there that I used to work, and we used to rub shoulders with some big people there.
But just to clarify, you were volunteering. You weren't making any money.
So the nice thing was for the big shows, they would pay us. So if an international show came in, or like Hillsong came in, or Planet Shakers came in, or if the Worthy Women Conference came in, those kind of gigs they used to pay us for, because we were contracted workers, professional workers for those shows, which was quite nice. It's a church.
Some money is always a nice thing, right?
So that stuff I did all for free, but through PL I made a lot of money through working at the barnyards and stuff like that. Anyways, I then decided in matric, cool, I actually want to study this audio engineering thing. I was kind of convinced back at school I wanted to be like an audio acoustician architect thing and design.
I remember that.
Yeah, design buildings architecturally, acoustically, sound and all that kind of stuff, but I did maths lit, and that never happened. So,
What's the takeaway here, kids? Study. Don't take maths lit, or
do maths.
Do real maths. Okay,
do real maths.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for coming to the podcast.
That's me.
That's done. Everyone's finished now.
Cool.
Great, thank you.
Do real maths. So I decided to end up studying audio engineering in 2011 and 2012. It's just a diploma that they offered at that time. I always said I wanted to be Dr. Sound, and that.
You're Dr. Sound to me, Greg.
So I studied audio engineering. It's something I've been doing for 4 years. I went off to study it, and I think a lot of times people ask you like, why? Why did you do that? Why did you waste the money? And I also wasn't sure at the time. I want to be honest with you and tell you that I didn't learn much. I didn't learn anything new. I already knew a lot of the stuff, but it did help confirm my self-teachings, if I can put it that way. I was on the right track and was doing the right stuff. I learned the digital software Pro Tools which was kind of cool. I mean, I was on a sound desk kind of guy. That was me. I was live audio, live PA. So I learned a lot about that, the more digital side of things. But also, I really wasn't sure actually why I was doing it. After the second year, I was like, I used that time in college to do podcasts, and I made other connections there, and I rubbed shoulders with a lot of people there. I used it more as a networking experience for me, honestly, than actually for the diploma. However, the diploma came in handy when I worked internationally, so they needed that. That helped.
So for people who are looking to get into sort of a sound engineer, audio engineer job, some guys who in school and they go to their local festival band, they see their favorite bands playing on stage and they see the guy busy mixing there and they're like, yes, that sounds like a really cool job. Is there a big difference between live engineering and what it is that you do now, or is there a difference, because you mentioned the difference between the digital and the analog? What's the vibe?
Yeah there's a massive difference to. So actually, let me tell you the rest of my story before we actually get into. I'm going to answer that with the rest of my story.
Perfect.
So yeah, studied audio engineering, first year, second year. I came out as there were two top live students. So that's the thing with audio is, and this is touching on your question now as well. There's many facets to it, and they all translate to a degree, but they're very, very, very different ways, or very different disciplines rather. The first one is live audio engineering, which I did. Massive PAs, band, stage, put up a sound system, you're mixing on a console, sounds coming at you, it could be raining, the weather's always an issue, that kind of stuff. Those are awesome. Then there is music recording. So obviously you're in a studio, you got one guitar guy standing there and he's ticky, and you mic up the amp and you plug him through a bunch of process. I don't know, I don't do that kind of stuff. So
yeah. So someone else's problem, right?
That's somebody else's gig. So I don't do music recording in a studio. Kills me, man. It's just for me. It's sitting with that same song, with that same track over and over and over and over again. Kills me. I like doing the live thing. Get in, get out, smash it. It's done. If you stuff it up, you stuff it up. If you don't, freaking you live to see another day.
Yeah.
You get to live to have another paycheck, I guess. So the live thing really intrigues me and drives my soul. So you get the studio stuff, you get post-production for television and films and that kind of thing. So they take what people have done, recorded media with cameras and audio, and they kind of sync it together. They add ambience, they add sound effects, and they produce a package that you then can watch on TV or whatever like that, or movies. And then the other one is broadcast, live radio broadcast or live television broadcast. So those are your kind of four big disciplines, and they're very different from each other in my personal experience. I feel they're very, very different. So I studied live, I specialized in live, always did live. It's the only thing I damn knew. It was the one I did. And even so, we did music recordings, but they were all live. So we touch on the recording thing, you plug in everything, you multi-track it, you live it, poof, send it off to the mix guys, and they sit with that same damn song for a month and a half. I did it one day and it's done. So thank heavens for that. Anyway, so I studied live. I came on one of the two top students. They never told us if I was first or second, but we were two top students, and they asked us to go to Skouspel. My lecturer, Greg du Preez, asked us, hey, do you two guys want to come with me to Skouspel 2012? That was there in Sun City.
So for people out there who don't know, what is Skouspel?
Skouspel was a massive showcase music concert show done by South African pop artists. So they'd bring Nia Nal, like what's Andertani, I don't know, there's loads of them. I can only think of Nia Nal now for one or another reason. Lorika Rauch, that's the one, and Koenie de Villiers and those type of guys would come onto the show, and they would, Emo Adams was daar, and I look almost, it's like Afrikaans is groot, but back in the day. They used to do a big show, and my lecturer asked me, hey, do I want to go with as one of the sound techs? I jumped at the opportunity. Who wouldn't want to do that? This is what I want to do with my life. And yeah, there at Skouspel, I met my sound idol, if you want to call him that, Marius Murray. To me, at that stage of my life, he was a absolute legend in the industry. He was like the guy that mixed all the big artists at that stage. And the fact that I got to meet him and I got to work with him, he was the FOH guy, the front of house mixing engineer on that gig. Man, it was such an opportunity to work with him while he was mixing that show. And yeah, met Marius. hit it off, and we did the Scospel, and we finished Scospel, packed up, went home. And I had one exam left in my second year. I literally had one exam left. I was at Cornwall actually teaching them audio. They booked me afterwards after I left Cornwall for a few years to help them still train the audio crew. And I was standing at Cornwall, and I got a phone call, and it's Marius on the other side. And I'm like, hey, how's it going? He's like, hey, lekker, man. He's like, listen, what are you doing for the rest of your life between 3 a.m. and 7? I'm like, I'm sleeping.
As most normal people
As
are.
most normal people do, right? He's like, cool, I've got work for you. You start tomorrow. I'm like, okay, cool. So he sends me an address. He's like, be here at this place. I'm like, freaking sweet. I had no idea what I was getting into. I mean, it's Marius. It's a solid gig. And I then rock up. I then leave and I rock up at the studio, the location that he sent me. And it's a place called Stark Studios in Randburg. And I meet one or two people. I have still no idea what the hell I'm there for. Meet one or two people. And they're like, hey, cool, yeah, this is for Dagbreek. It's a TV show. I'm like, TV? I've never worked a day of TV in my life. And from what I've heard, this is like completely, like this is lapel mics, and we've got comm systems and IFBs, like in-ear pieces. And I'm like, what? Huh? So I had no training in television at that stage. And I learned on the job. That took me a week or two, and I got it. I learned how to lapel people up. I learned how to mic people up in that situation, and that happened. Just rewinding a little bit, in 2011, I actually got another job at a different church, just as their sound guy initially. And that's kind of where it started for me, learning multiple aspects and different aspects of not just audio, but of a production. My responsibilities included there was to also learn and maintain the lighting side of things, and then eventually to learn and maintain the AV side of things. And then they never had cameras, but I learned that from Moraletta. So yeah, I carried on doing live work through 2011, 2012 at this church and at Moraletta, and freelancing on stage gigs and for production companies and stuff like that. November 2012, I started my television job in the mornings. So that was, you need to be in Randburg at 3.
And this is 3 a.m.
Jeez, I'm not a morning
3
person.
yeah.
Hey, I'm not a morning person at all. So yeah, I had to be in Randburg at 3 in the mornings. We work until 7. 7 in the morning, you're done. You eat breakfast, you go home, you do other work or whatever. So I had much time in the day open to do other stuff. And I mean, we were podcasting at that stage as well. And I was still doing live gigs. In 2013, I got offered a job at Moraletta as their sound guy and technician, like senior technical person. I don't know actually what my job title was. But yeah, in that job and in that space, I learned how to do camera work. I learned how to do lighting. I learned how to do AV. And I grabbed all those opportunities to learn the aspects, to learn how to operate them, not just how to maintain the equipment. I think that's the difference between... There's a lot of engineers out there that I know, like really, really good studio engineers, broadcast engineers, technicians that know how to sell the equipment, and they know how to repair the equipment, they know how to set up the equipment, but they don't necessarily know how to operate equipment. And I feel that gives me an edge over a lot of people as I really try and learn how to operate the equipment, so that when people come to me with troubleshooting errors, I can, from a different hat, I can try and analyze the situation. I can try and fix what's wrong. Yeah, and I mean, I learned a lot of skills there at Moraletta. I really, really learned a lot at that place. And those skills then translated into the television world. So when I was working TV, I just started as an audio assistant. So I just put microphones on people. But through other skills, I could learn, okay, lighting, 3-point lighting works like this. And I could actually see the different aspects overlap each other. And I could take skills I was learning in the TV studio and apply that to my job at Moraletta. And I could make Moraletta's recordings better. I could change mic positions and make things better. I could use different equipment. I could change the lighting setup to make things better. I learned about, shadows and hard light on the back and all kind of stuff like that could really enhance our television production that we were producing at Moraletta for CakeNet at that time. So yeah, that was my big thing, is like taking all the knowledge that I could from everywhere, from television, from live, from stage productions, and taking it all and putting it together to use to become a good operator on all of these aspects, and to become a good engineer at all of these aspects, and to design systems that integrate with each other, and to make a good production at the end of the day. That's my job. So yeah, television. I started television, worked dagbreak from 3 to 6. You're not even talking. Let me just carry on talking.
It's fine. You can keep going. I mean, this is what we're here for.
I'm just telling you my story.
Yeah, this is what we're here
how
for.
I became a sound engineer.
Yeah.
Where to today, and I'm still in 2012, so we're getting there. So yeah, dagbreak started.
So another 8 years to go, folks. If you guys want to find,
it all just from here just blurs together into one. Like, he's just been stuck at Stark for the last 8 years. So there, I met a sound guy, broadcast engineer called Sean Zuccolotto. I owe a lot to Sean as well. I learned everything I know about television audio from Sean. It was a great mentor, great friend. He's now immigrated to Australia. That's why I say was. I don't work with him anymore, unfortunately. But yeah, Sean was a rad dude, and I learned a hell of a lot from him, and I owe him a lot as well. A lot of thanks. So yeah, I learned a lot from Sean. He actually took me with him in 2013, I think it was. Yeah, 2013. He took me with him to Qatar. I got to work overseas there, and that was the only time, that and another time, where my diploma came in handy, where they asked, like, look, what's your education? And they wouldn't have accepted me if I didn't have higher education. So, not that it was a question, but yeah, it was important if you want to work overseas, basically. Yeah. So it wasn't all in, I don't know, what's the word I'm looking for here?
Practice.
Yeah. Yeah, it turned out to be good at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So Sean, I learned a lot from Sean. The studios got busier with other work. We did Umbait Sake, Jukebox, Kwela, Robinson Rechtstreeks. Geez, we did Talks and Chops. We started doing shows for Standard Bank and ABSA and so forth. So I got to meet a lot of people again, a lot of clients in the industry. And slowly but surely, my live work started phasing out. I got much busier with television. The pay in television was slightly a little bit better. The work was, I don't want to say easier, but less backbreaking, in the sense of there weren't trucks to unload, there weren't combis to pack, there weren't stages to build, there wasn't PA to set up. It's kind of, you're in a studio that's already there, you just need to switch everything on and white glove to a degree. So yeah, started phasing out all my live work, and now I'm stuck in television. I don't know how I got here. Really, I didn't want to do this. This wasn't where I wanted to be. This was not my 5-year plan. But now I'm a television audio engineer, and I'm working on some really big shows. We just finished up working Family Feud South Africa and Ghana with Steve Harvey. I'm flying to Cape Town next week for the Fiestas. There's my second one now that I'm doing for them. So that's kind of cool. Yeah, a lot of TV work.
So I think there's quite a bit to distill there from your whole life story, Greg. One of the things I want to touch on, though, immediately is the amount of times that you said that you volunteered and you were doing jobs, like you just rocked up. You didn't really know what you were getting yourself into.
Oh, yeah.
But you just rocked up. You did the work because you needed to. You needed to do the work, and you needed to get the experience. And the other thing I want to touch on is the number of people that you mentioned who you owe a lot to, who were mentors and stuff in your field. Do you feel like both of those things are quite important within the sort of the creative realm that is audio engineering?
Oh, yeah. I think it goes further than just audio engineering. I think it goes to everything in the industry that I work in. Camera, lighting. I know I can actually tell you a really good story of a lighting guy, Andre. It's actually chat to Andre Siebert. He'll also tell you how he started just rocking up for idols. They had idols at Mosaic, at the venue, at the church that he used to work at. He was also at the church, volunteer, a light Hebrew. He's like 14, 15, 16 years old. And he just rocked up every single time there was a show. And eventually they chased him out, and he was like, no, I'm going to sit on the roof. And he went into the catwalk on the roof, and he used to watch the show, and he just rocked up. And now, today, Andre, I don't even know how old he is. He's 22, 23. He's much younger than me, and he is the best lighting guy in the country. He is honestly, hands down, incredible, just because you rocked up. That was actually something that one of my lecturers back at college used to say, is be at the right place all the time. And I really took that to heart. An opportunity is always around the corner. There are many doors, and there's many doors to open. I think you got to find them. Yeah, you just got to be there. Just rock up. open all the doors that you possibly can. You never know where you're going to end up. You never know what's going to make you a quick buck. You never know what's going to make you not a quick buck, and it's going to be long, hard work, and eventually it'll pay off. That's the other thing. It's nothing is fast money. Nothing is easy. But yeah, I think volunteering, just rocking up, showing initiative. That's honestly the best thing that I can say. Just show initiative, because 9 out of 10 times the crews that you're working with in any kind of live production or TV production or like any photo shoots, any video crew, it's more than one person that's on that job site. It's more than one person working there. It's a collaboration of 5, 6, 7, 8 people. They all have their job that they're doing. And if you just rock up and you show initiative, if you try and help wherever you can, as many people as you can, they'll start taking, maybe not a liking in you, might get annoying, but just show initiative, show that you want to be there, show that you want to help, and eventually they'll call you back. They'll be like, hey, look, you were really good on the last gig that we used you on. I really liked your work ethic. I liked how you did things. Please, dude, come back. We'll pay you this time. And you do that enough times and you earn $10, and you do that enough times, you earn $100. You do that enough times, you earn $1,000. And eventually you've got a few contacts in the industry, and they're paying you R1,000 every time you're doing it. So I think that's the biggest thing is how do you break into any industry? You can't just, I know with the production company that we work with, we get emails weekly of these oaks. Hey man, we just finished at AFTA, just got my degree. I'm a DOP. My fee is, I charge 200,000 Rand to shoot a commercial for you. And we're like, dude, you just finished studying. You don't even have a portfolio that we can look at. How do you want this much money? Like,
straight out the door, man.
Straight out, no, 200K. We'll DOP a commercial for you. I'm like, no.
And they're getting in touch with you with no basis. They don't know you.
Yeah, they're cold calling. They're sending an email, or they've sent a message from our Facebook page. So, yeah, I think just letting people know, hey, I'm here, I'm available for work, I'm available as an assistant. And that's my big thing is I honestly feel like I started my way up from the bottom. I only started mixing for television 3 years ago now. What's 2020? Yeah, I started mixing for TV in 2017. So, I mean, I've been mixing audio since I was 15, 16 years old, but I've had to prove myself in the industry. I've had to sit, I came in and I'm always, doesn't matter where I work at the moment, I am the youngest person there. And I always constantly feel like I have to prove myself to these people, and I have to show them. I mean, I just worked a show now, Family Feud, yes.
With Steve Harvey, right?
With Steve Harvey, it is. The Eva. So I worked Family Feud, and I was the youngest person on set in a senior position. I mean, my audio assistants were older than me. These guys have been assisting for many years, and I walk in and I come in and I mix the show, and they're like, but that's not right. But I've honestly worked my way up through the ranks, and I feel like I've earned the respect of the director. I've earned the respect of the studio engineers. I've earned the respect of a lot of people on the crew to trust me enough to mix the show.
You've been doing it for 15 years.
I've been doing it for 15 years. It's a long time. But, it's the first time I'm working with these assistants who are 3, 4, 5 years older than me, and they're like, what the hell, bro? Yeah, it's not fair. So I get that a lot. Yeah, I get that a lot. I always feel like I need to prove myself. But you got to work your way up through the ranks. You really have to get in and just start from the bottom and earn respect. That's the best thing you can do. I know with me, so many people when they find out that I'm a qualified engineer and then I'm working as a full-time photographer, they're like, but how do you go from the one to the other? They're so incredibly different. But I've always thought of the two as being very mutually inclusive, because a large part of what I do within the photography realm is problem solving. And I feel like that's the same in any creative field, and especially if you're on a high up senior level, you're problem solving the whole time. Yeah. Is that something that you find yourself doing on a day-to-day basis? You rock up on set and something's fried and you have no idea what's going on, but your job is literally just to problem solve? Yeah, so it's actually, I honestly think that's the scariest part of my job. I was talking to guys now regarding, again, Steve Harvey. I'm using this as a great example. I wasn't the first contact for the show. All right, they contacted another guy. He came in, he designed the entire audio setup. He designed the entire audio recording, back and forth, or the whole multi-channel track, the whole patch layout. He designed the whole comm system. He unfortunately had to leave to do another gig up in Hoedspruit, and he was gone for 3 months. The director then called me and was like, "Hey, Greg, look, this guy's leaving. We need you to come in and mix the show." And to be dead honest with you, that is the most difficult thing to do, because I never designed the system. I don't know what the backbone is. I don't know if something goes wrong, there down the line. I don't know what the connections are in between to fix that. I don't know what that other guy has installed, what he's put in place, or how the patching works, how the fibers work there. I don't know where the routing goes. I don't know any of that.
It's like being a chef in someone else's house, right?
It's honestly like, I don't know where the spatula is. What the hell's a spatula? And I've got to cook the egg. The egg is burning, and I need to, you need to do something with it. And that was honestly the most difficult part of my job. Going in and mixing, dude, is super easy for me. Honestly, I feel like I'm a good operator, and I can mix really well. I can listen to the director, and I can read my script. And with those two things, you can't screw up. If you just follow the instructions and you read the script and you're watching television, I'm mixing television. That's what I'm doing, and it's easy. You can do that. But as soon as something goes wrong, that's the problem. The other thing that freaks me out from an audio kind of point of view, and this is honestly like one of my biggest fears regarding audio, is with a lot of the other guys, with a lot of the other disciplines or jobs on a film side or a television production, they know their equipment. And they work on that one piece of equipment, and they most likely rent that equipment in. So if you're the guy recording all the video and playing back videos and stuff like that system's called EVS. And you're a specialized, trained EVS operator. You rent in an EVS, and you work on EVS, and all the EVSs work the same. Awesome. Camera coloring, the camera color correction guys. There's Iris, there's some color controls. The Grass Valley systems are all the same, pretty much through all the cameras. Grass Valley is Grass Valley is Grass Valley. Even the Sony ones are very much the same. The settings, the control panels are the same. The lighting guys all use Grand MA2s. That's what they use, or .2 systems, but it's all still the same layout and infrastructure, and the same, what's the name? Brand of console. So they all make the same thing. The director sits down, the PS or the production secretary or the assistant AD, she works on clocks, and the clocks are all the same. And then the graphics guy he only knows the ROS system, and that's what he works with. He rents in a ROS system, and he uses the ROS system, and that's what he knows. He knows the software, he knows the backbone, he knows what goes wrong, he knows how to fix it. Kippy, so I rock up, and every studio has a different sound desk.
Yeah.
Every Obi van has a different sound desk. Now, I work on, for instance, a Yamaha QL5 every single day at Stock Studios. That's the console that I know there. Now I go to Urban Brew, where I mixed Family Feud. Now I suddenly have to learn a Soundcraft. Not a Soundcraft, I don't know what. Yeah, that one. The big ones of Soundcraft. I don't even know what they're called anymore. Those ones.
You're asking the wrong person on this side.
But it's a whole
completely different
desk. And the fact with sound discs is, there's an EQ, there's a gain, there's a compressor, there's a limiter, and there's a fader. But the patching behind it, and how to fix things, how to label things, how to control things, how to group things, VCAs are different. And the Obi vans were using Calrex. Some of them don't have Calrex, they've got something else. And I'm like, I don't have the time to learn these audio consoles all the time. And that's my biggest fear, is the equipment, because I'm not getting enough hours on my sound desk. One of my lecturers said one time is you need, I think, something like 10 hours a week on your console to know your console. I'm not getting 10 hours a week. I mean, I work on that Obi van 3 times a year with a Calrec. That's not a lot of time. So I need to learn that console. And a lot of times, like, I'm rocking up now, I don't even know what Obi van's going to be in Cape Town. So I'm going to get there, and I'm going to have to learn the console on the day. And I have one day to learn the console, mix the show, and then we fly back home. That's the scary part. Mixing the show is easy. Pushing faders is super easy. I can teach anyone to push faders. But it's knowing what to do when something goes wrong. It's being 5 steps ahead. And that's my thing, is I agree with you completely on that. You need to problem solve the whole time. You have to be 5 steps ahead. Another good friend of mine, Josh, we have a business together. we were discussing stuff yesterday, and he was asking me some questions. I was like, "Hey, dude, I need to buy this equipment and this equipment and this equipment." And then he came with other questions. He was like, "Yeah, but what if we need to send audio there or send a visual there?" I'm like, "Yeah, no, I've already thought about that. Then we're going to need to rent in this little box, and we're going to have to do that and this and this." So you constantly need to be 5 steps ahead, especially when purchasing equipment, because you need to be able to expand. I can't afford everything that I need now. I can only afford a third of it. So how can I use a third of it and actually make money with a third of it? But that third must also be able to be expanded into the full system that I one day actually require. I can't just buy some of it and be like, okay, well, I can't actually use any of this. And I can't buy some of it and use it now, but I can never build on it again. So yeah, it's a lot of problem solving, and I think your engineering skills come in very handy with a lot of that.
I feel like your mention there of Josh and the business that you guys have is a good segue into you yourself. When we started off, you said you have your finger in a lot of different pies.
Yeah.
And you run it more than a few different businesses. You don't have to get into what it is that you run, but have you found that having your finger in so many different pies and being knowledgeable about so many different facets of your industry, has that helped you quite a lot?
Oh yeah.
You're not just Greg the sound guy. You are Greg the sound guy who's a genius in so many different fields.
I've actually had to change my email address. Because of that. I mean, that was my email address for a long time.
Please don't email Greg.
No, it doesn't work anymore. So yeah, no, exactly that. I think you asked a question a little earlier. Sorry, we never actually touched on that. Was the mentor thing, and I'd like to come back to this point, but I really want to touch on that. It is essential to have mentors in this industry. It gets super tough. It gets super lonely and it gets super scary a lot of times. I mean, there are days, there are weeks where you don't have work and you don't know what the heck's going on. And it's great to have someone to talk to that's been through that can help you through it. Yeah, having mentors is great. It's fantastic to be able to bounce ideas off of someone. I mean, you and I do it a lot of times, and I look up to you in the industry. You're also extremely hardworking. You're very forward-thinking in the terms of the way you do things, right?
Thank you.
And I look up to you in that. And I love bouncing ideas off of you just because, like, okay, you see things differently. You see things from a different perspective. But it is good to have mentors. It's good to be able to find help in someone. It's good to be able to trust someone and for them to be able to trust you and help you. I mean, they also... And I know, like, a lot of times when I was at Moraletta, I had volunteers that looked up to me again, and I was their mentor. It's nice to be able to pass knowledge through to someone else. Mm. Nice to be able to connect with somebody on that level, and you can see them grow. That's honestly, it's one of the best things ever. So have a mentor and be a mentor. Then getting back to your other question. Sorry. What was that?
Different facets of your life.
Oh,
Greg,
yeah. Having skills. I wouldn't have aanpak. What's the English word? I wouldn't have
to take it on.
Yeah, I wouldn't have taken on this venture if I didn't have those skills. I feel I'd be dumb if I did. I'm somebody that researches something to death before I do it. I don't like big risks.
Except for when you get thrown into jobs that you have no idea what you're getting thrown into.
Yeah. But I mean, I was much younger and I could take many more risks. I think that's another thing is, like, I'm not married and I don't have kids. You know, I can still take risks. Yeah. I can take money that I've saved up. I can take 10, 20, 30 grand, pop it into a business, buy some equipment and hope something works. Let's float this thing. Let's see how it goes. Even though I know I'm not going to make that money back in a year or two. And that's okay. I mean, it's 30K, whatever. I don't have kids to feed and school fees to pay and a house to, like, pay off and stuff like that. I'm very, very, very fortunate and very lucky in that position. I'm still young and I can take risks. And I think I'm still a very cautious risk taker in the sense of, like, I still research something to death, and I wouldn't have done. So the business that Josh and I have is a live streaming business, just to let everyone
give
know
context to the rest of the world. Yeah,
what the hell we're actually talking about, yeah.
But I think that the business that you and Josh have is quite a unique one, especially in the South African sphere.
Yeah, I definitely think so. I think not many people are doing it quite. Dude, so this has always been an issue in my life. I feel like I've always been just in front of the wave.
Yeah.
Just like
little bit just like 6 months, a year too much. Yeah.
When Henry and I were doing the podcasts, that was 2012.
Yeah.
2012, 2013, we were doing podcasts. Nobody was listening to podcasts.
Yeah. No one even knew what a podcast was.
No one knew what a podcast was.
Podcast app on iPhone wasn't even out yet.
Balls Radio didn't exist. Cliff Central didn't exist.
Yeah.
None of the radio stations were posting their stuff to podcasts.
Yeah.
We were doing podcasts.
Yeah.
We went to Samro to get licensing for music rights, so we could play music on our podcast. And they were like, "Hey, what? What now?" Yeah,
I remember that.
They had to literally write licensing, like write laws for us to be able to play music on the podcast, and it took too long. And we were just like, we can't do this anymore. So it's something about me is I feel like I'm always just like
too much ahead of the curve.
Yeah, just a little bit in front of the curve. And the same with the streaming thing, but I'm really seeing a lot of interest and a lot of uptake in the streaming. I feel like we live in a very visual world, and as an audio engineer, that's not a good thing. So people like to see things; they like to look at stuff.
Yeah.
And I think there was a stat, and I'm gonna like 80% of stats are made up on the spot.
Exactly.
But somebody I once read something. They said by the year 2023 or something stupid like that, 80 to 90% of content on the internet will be video. And I really believe that. If you look at the whole TikTok generation and Instagram stories and all that kind of stuff, that's all going video. Like it's a big thing. So what we're doing is live streaming, live internet streaming. So we specialize in that, and that's what we do. So yeah, it's very involved. It's very intricate with cameras, with audio, with sync. There's a lot of that kind of stuff that happens, and I wouldn't have done that if I never did television. I mean, that's live. You'd never learn any of that kind of stuff in live audio. So because of the skills that I've learned from television, because of the skills I learned from Moraletta doing video productions there, because of the other production company that I have doing corporates, knowing how to record stuff, knowing how to edit, knowing how to multicam cut and all that kind of stuff, really incorporates all those skills into this business. It's good also being technical, but at the end of the day, it is business, and you're going to run the business too.
I wanted to literally segue. You're like the best person to talk to because you just segue so nicely.
I know. I can see it in your eyes. I can see where you want to
go. You mentioned just now, like having a mentor really helped you because there's those times, especially being a freelancer, and I've spoken to this to a few people about this before as well. There's those times where you have zero work.
Yeah.
And it's so nice having a mentor because then you're able to chat to them about it and they're able to guide you through this because they've been there, they've done it. So how did you get yourself through those times when, there was no work coming in, being a freelancer? And how important is determination, that ability to just stick around? And I think this is touching on exactly what you were just talking about now with being ahead of the curve a little bit too early. Like how important are all of those things, being able to just stick around and just keep working?
So firstly, I feel like I need to come clean about this.
What are we talking about, Greg?
No, I've always positioned myself in a way that I have permanent income. When I was working, before matric, from when I started to 2010, I was still living with my parents. All money I was making was pocket money. Capiche, love it. From 2011 to 2012, all that money, I was studying. So I was also still living with my parents. Money was coming in. I didn't really have expenses. I didn't have any issues. There was nothing that had to happen. And in 2011, I started my first job at a church. I was earning 3,500 Rand a month. That's all I was doing. I was working Thursdays, working Sundays, 4 times a month, earning 3.5K. And that was money that I always had. Boof. And that came in monthly. And from there, when I started television in 2012, I was very lucky that they signed a 1-year contract with us. And that's all I have. Since 2012, every single year, I have a 1-year contract with these guys. So I don't know if I'm actually being renewed in April yet. We don't have contracts. We haven't signed agreements. So I don't know if I have work after April. But I've always positioned myself in such a way that I've always had a 1-year contract with somebody, and I've really worked hard at pleasing those clients specifically. The freelance clients are there, and I always keep them there. But to be able to have this work is so important to me because it is basically permanent income. I was also very fortunate that I worked at Moreletta, and Moreletta paid me a monthly salary for many years up until 2017. So from 2017 till 2020 now, I've only had the 1-year contract with stock, or not with stock, with the production company that I work with, and then a bunch of freelance gigs over and above that. But I also try and do, a big thing that I try and do is the money that I make from these guys every month, I try not make my expenses more than 2/3 of that income. I always live under the brackets. I am, again, very lucky in the fact that I don't have debts. I own my car, and even so, as a freelancer who doesn't have a permanent job, I had to put a 50% deposit on my car. So even that is the bank gave me that money. They were like, okay, that's fine. So that's a marginal expense on what I have. But that's the only debt I have. I don't owe credit cards. I don't owe clothing accounts. I don't owe on equipment. I save and I buy what I need. So that's like a big thing for me, is living under my means and not spending all that money, because I know I'm going to run into dry months. For this contract specifically, we don't work for 6 weeks over December, January. Now, we only get paid per shift that we rock up. So I don't get paid for 6 weeks. There's no money there. So I need to make sure that I'm saving up enough money. I need to know that I've got enough income to support me for those 6 weeks plus some, because it gets difficult in February as well. It's not easy. In February and March, only you start coming right, because February is also a short month. And you always overspend in December, and you want to go on holiday. And if I take leave or take holiday, I don't get paid for those times. So that's a big thing. Is I've always been in a very fortunate position that I've really worked hard at getting a contract or getting something that I have some sort of permanent work to keep me going. That was the one question. You asked something else. I can't remember what you asked.
Hey, and you're asking the person in the history of mankind who has the worst memory on earth.
This is also true. So yeah, I think it's really good to have that. And getting through the tough times. I've been very fortunate. Tax is your friend. Freelancers out there, 25% tax. Do that. Get IRP5s. Get a tax man. Tax is your friend. You get tax returns. Get someone who knows something about tax to teach you about tax. The best investment I can make is paying a tax man every year. Honestly, it's really, I pay him some money. He does my tax.
Sorts it out for you.
And then I get a nice return at the end of the year. And yeah, that's kind of how it works for me. So yeah, having a mentor as well does help getting through those times, because I think that was the other part of your question, is in those quiet times, having a network that you can still talk to and be like, hey guys, geez, let's collaborate on something. Let's do something else. If it's quiet, let's try do something. Let's just be creative. Let's just stay busy. I think that's the biggest thing, is stay busy. Don't sit at home, just play video games and hope work's going to fall in your lap. It's never going to happen, buddy. So stay busy. Just go out and do stuff. Be creative. That's kind of a big thing for me as well. It's like, I like getting out there and being in touch with people. I mean, we constantly have coffee, constantly once a month sometimes. It's so busy. So yeah, like once every 3 months maybe. Yeah, maybe. But those are in our quiet moments. Yeah. And then we can get together and be like, hey dude, geez, what was that thing you were working on last time? We need to shoot that thing. Let's go and shoot that. And then it just snowballs from there again. And I think that's another thing, is depression is a thing. And a lot of times you fall into that pit where you're like, that anxiety pit of like, I don't have work, I don't know where my next paycheck's coming from, what the hell's going on? And I feel like positivity reaps positivity, and you just attract that energy to you. And if you stay busy and you stay in communication with people that are busy, at some point, again, fall back on that. Never be too greedy to be like, no, this is my rate. This is what I'm working for. And, you need help with your project? Pay me my rate. No. Be humble about where you came from. That's honestly it. I work for free, and even today, as a senior guy, I will still go out of my way to help a buddy out. If I've got a connection somewhere in the thing and they need a hand, or they need somebody to just help them out, dude, what can you pay? $300 and you're buying lunch. Freaking sweet. I'll be there. because I know I scratch your back, you scratch mine at some point. And that's the thing about South Africa. Our industry is very small, dude. Industry is very, very, very small. You always need to be nice to everyone.
It's actually, I've had this conversation before where it's like, you can't throw a stone without hitting some form of creative person in the industry.
Yeah.
Regardless of what industry you're in, whether that's sound, photography, music, whatever it is.
To put this into perspective for you, I always say the States, if you look at the US, in the US, every state, how many states are there? 52, 54, I don't even know. Every state has their own television channel. Multiple television channels. Every city in that state has a television channel. And those TV channels broadcast school sports and games and stuff like that. Now, do you know how many TV channels that is? Do you know how many people there are that work in that industry? If you work in Pretoria, you only work in Pretoria. You know, that is it. Pretoria has 2 TV stations. And they broadcast local games, and they broadcast the news in Pretoria, and they broadcast the weather in Pretoria. And Joburg has its own TV station. They broadcast the news and the sport games there, and Cape Town has its own. Imagine that. Imagine South Africa having so many people working at one time, but we don't. We have one. There's just South Africa. That's what it is. So everywhere you go, you're going to hit someone, and we're all doing the same job.
Yeah.
You know, that is what it is. So you've always got to fight for your place. You've got to try to prove yourself, and you just have to be open for any kind of work. I think that's another thing about the UK and the US is your job is your job. If you're a audio assistant that just mics people up,
that's what you do for the next 40 years of your life.
That's what you do for the next 40 years of your life. If you're a comms engineer, if you're a rigger, if you're a camera assistant, if you're anything, that's your job. If you're a makeup artist, you just makeup artist. But I feel like in SA, we have to be multi-talented and multifaceted. I can't just rock up, white glove, mix the show and leave. I have to help set up. I have to help pack up. I have to help mic people. I have to help deal the comm systems out. I have to be very flexible in what I do. I have to hold the ladder for the lighting guy. You know, that's my job. We all have to help each other because there aren't enough people in the industry. It's a very, very small industry, and there's not enough people, but there's a lot of people to make it saturated.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. There's a lot of people trying to be senior, and not enough juniors actually doing the work, because that's how we work. You're a junior and you work through the ranks, and you become a senior. Where in the UK and in the States, I feel like every job is a senior job, and you become a senior in that job once you've done that job for 5 years plus or 10 years plus, whatever it is. And being an assistant is a prestigious job, where here being an assistant's like, yeah, I want to be an engineer. I'm like, guys, it's a great job. I love being an assistant. Please somebody book me to be an assistant. I love being an assistant.
Anyone need an audio engineer assistant? But what you say is 100% correct. I think overseas, especially, that they have the market for it. I'm sure you're the same, where you watch a lot of international audio engineers, and myself looking at a lot of international photographers. There are people who are full-time assistants. They've been an assistant for a photographer, maybe for a few different photographers. That's what they've done for their entire lives. And in South Africa, it's sort of like, it's like looked down upon. Like, I can't be an assistant because I'm the photographer.
I need to interrupt you here. I saw this when I was working at the church at Moraletta. It's a very corporate structure that the church used to work in, right? So I was an audio engineer, and I was a specialist I was actually technician. I was the head technician at the church. So that means lighting, video, sound, AV, all that kind of stuff. I was the senior position in that. Now, they couldn't pay me more. They refused to pay me more. When it came time for increases and stuff like that, they were like, look, we can't pay you more, because if we pay you more, you earn more than the managers. And that's the only next step of progression for me, is to become a manager. And I don't have management skills. I'm a terrible manager of people. I don't want to manage these people. I'm really good at what I do. I want to do that. And I think that's a big issue that we have in South Africa, and that's a problem that I like to address, is to be like, pay specialists more. And your job is specialized. Every single one of our jobs is specialized. We are good at what we do. We're amazing at it. Just pay me for it. I don't want to be a manager. I don't want to be upgraded to be able to earn more. Where in the States and in the US, the States and the US, same place. The UK, it works like that. Where here it doesn't. If you want to upgrade or you want to better yourself, you either go into sales or you become a manager.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
So Greg, we've chatted about a lot of different things now, but if you could go back in time, say 10 years back to, 16, 17, 18-year-old Greg, what advice would you give yourself? Looking back, like having 20/20 vision. Sorry, dad jokes.
Especially in the year 2020. Thanks, Henry. What advice would I give myself if I had to go back? I honestly don't know. I honestly don't know. I don't think... I think everything worked out the way that it should have. I don't think I would have changed my path. Yeah, man, I've had great opportunities and I've made good money, and I don't think I wouldn't give any advice to myself to change my path. If I today had to sit and give an 18-year-old some advice, I would just be like, I'd tell them, just rock up, just be there. Honestly, just work your ass off. That's the only way to do anything in this industry. Show up. Every opportunity is an opportunity. Don't close any doors. Don't burn bridges. You will burn your fingers a few times. It happens to everybody. You'll learn who to work with and who not to work with. You'll learn who pays on time. You'll learn who doesn't pay on time. That is advice that I can't give you. That's not advice anyone can give you. You need to learn that for yourself. Because by making those mistakes, you become a better person. You up your skills, you up your knowledge, and you know what to look out for in the future. I anyways don't think I would have listened to myself if I had to give my 18-year-old self advice right now to be like, oh, Greg, watch out for these guys and those guys and rather do this. I honestly wouldn't have. I'm like, what do you know? You're an old guy. So I wouldn't have listened to myself, I think. Yeah. I
liked what you said earlier about be at the right place all the time. And I think that's viable for any industry, whatever it is that you're in, not just sound, because you say it over and over and over again. Just rock up and be there, and don't close any doors. Take all the opportunities that you can. Greg, if you could, bearing all of this in mind, and you could tell anything to anybody, if you could put up a big ass billboard on the N1, get a message out, like everyone had a set of headphones on, and you could just had like the sole microphone to everyone's ears, what message would you put out into the whole wide world?
That's a big question. You didn't prepare me for this. I asked Henry beforehand, hey dude, what are we talking about? Is anything I need to prep? Nah. Any hard hitting questions? Like, no, dude, I don't feel like I'm profound enough for anything like that. I'd just be like, hey, don't cough on me. Corona's a real thing. But
right now, yeah. February 2020, right? Got you,
dude. Such a relevant joke. It's gonna be so old.
Yeah,
2 months time. I think again. This is sorry. I'm going to digress here slightly. I know a lot of the more older senior people in the industry. Like again, me saying, "Hey guys, just rock up, be there all the time, just do the gig." I know a lot of the older people in the industry. I've also experienced this where sometimes I don't want to share information, because they're trying to protect their jobs, so they don't want people coming into the industry, and that's also an issue out there. But don't listen to them. Just rock up and do the gig. Just be there. Show face. Yeah.
I read something recently that touches really, really nicely on this. Carl Thunderschreef and I have chatted about it before on a few different occasions. And that is, the saying goes, a rising tide raises all ships. And that's basically in essence that. It's if everybody can learn to do their job better, then it raises the entire standard of the whole industry.
Yeah.
So, just sharing that information of how to do business a little bit better, it helps everybody out. Because now the guy who's charging, 300 Rand to rock up for a full day session, if you're telling him, no, man, just charge 1,000 Rand, then you whose rate is maybe 10,000 Rand, you can now start charging 15,000 Rand.
Yeah.
So
I think that is a big thing. Don't undercut yourself and don't underestimate your own skills and abilities. Yeah. And just learn more, learn everywhere you go. Take all the information you get and talk to people. I'm an introvert. it's very difficult for me to go out there and talk to people. I'm very comfortable talking to you because we have been best mates, and this is a very intimate session. And I don't see I'm ignoring the people on the outside of the mall who are there. Yeah. I'm not seeing them.
For the people who can't see the video, listening to the audio version of this, we're in a mall with people walking past constantly.
It's called a fishbowl. Hey,
a few people stopping by and taking a look at what we're doing.
So as an introvert, for me to go into a new workspace with people that I don't really know and to try and connect with them, it's very difficult for me. And that's something that I've had to learn as an introvert, is to just speak to people. And not even about the industry, not even about work, just like, hey, who are you? What do you do for a living? And through that, I've made contacts and I've made friends and I've made connections that have helped me further in life. Mentors, people I've learned from, people that have booked me for gigs. Yeah, that's been quite a cool thing. So yeah, learn from everyone all the time, and sometimes say no, but never say no.
Sometimes say no, especially if it's awkward logistics truck companies, right, Greg?
Yeah, I mean, skole kerke en skoolkonserte I don't do.
Yeah. And if your best friend asks you to come rock up and do a truck job for him, say no. Say no every single time.
Thank you. Hope they don't listen to this.
Oh man, Greg, thank you so much. I really appreciate your time. Thank you for pulling in, for being my guest on Creatives on Business. Where can the fancy people online find you?
Ooh, you can find me at Greg du Preez, Greg DUPREEZZ, double Z on Instagram if you really want to find me on Instagram. Otherwise, Street Smart Creative Film and TV Productions is the production company that I run and work for as operations director, and then Viewer TV, VUER.TV. That's our live streaming company. Yeah, so Street Smart Creative and Viewer. Cool, that's me.
Thank you very much, dude. I really appreciate it. And yeah, we will catch you guys on the next episode of Creatives on Business. Thanks, dude.
Thank you.
Ciao.
Ciao.